This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. On today's episode, I want to talk about an article that I actually came across about a week ago, and I wanted to do a bit of a dive into it because I think it really brings up some points and some things that are taking place that I don't think a lot of people think about. And I'm talking to a lot of to those that are listening, a lot of other real estate investors, realtors, mortgage brokers. And I want to talk to those that keep thinking that there's not going to be an issue. And I hear this from some of my friends in different parts of the country: Dallas, Houston, Miami, Southern California, San Diego, LA, even Northern California, San Francisco, and some other parts of the country. Like, oh, the market is great here. We're not going to see a downturn here in our neck of the woods. And I have to tell people, look, you haven't seen the majority of issues. Yes, do we know that there's been job loss? Check. We know that, okay? Do we know that people have been laid off? We know that. We know that businesses are closing. Check, right? We know that people aren't paying their mortgage payments. Check, all right? What you may not see are other habits or other identifying factors taking place across the country. And I was very blessed to come across an excellent article from WalletHub discussing some of the things that are going on. And I wanted to bring it up to let you guys to talk about it because it identifies the cities that are being hit the hardest when it comes to what's going on in the country right now, okay? And it basically identifies the top 100 cities with most people in financial distress during COVID-19. Now, the thing I want to go through with this, okay? We know the unemployment rate has been slowly improving as the country reopens. We know that still 12.6 million Americans are still out of a job, okay? In addition, one survey estimate nearly 69% of Americans would find it somewhat difficult or very difficult to meet their current financial obligations if their next paycheck were delayed, even for 1 week, okay? And then you also have to realize that some people in some cities are faring better than others, okay? And what WalletHub did is it compared the 100 largest cities with data limitations across 9 key matrices, okay? Includes factors like the change in the number of bankruptcies filings between June of 2019 and June of this year, the average credit score, if it's gone up or gone down, and the share of people with accounts in distress. All right. That means multiple accounts of distress: credit cards, car payments, student loans. It also did something interesting I found valuable is people that are actually Googling. The places in the cities where people are actually Googling, looking for loans, looking for bailouts, looking for a variety of issues that deal with finding money for the most part, okay? So I'm pulling up this list here so you guys can see it. And I was really surprised about how it hit. And so literally the 9 things it talks about obviously is credit score. But here's the thing: search interest for debt, search interest for loans. That's 2 different things. Bankruptcy filings increasing, average number of accounts in distress. People in distress, we know that because of forbearance agreements or people being laid off, credit scores, and they average the total score. Now, what might surprise you and might not surprise you is the cities that kind of hit that part. Now, the first 1 or 2 is not a real big surprise because of everything going on there and how heavy it was hit with everything being shut down. But the number 1 city facing difficulties, sees the most people in financial distress is actually Las Vegas, Nevada. And their ranking score across these 9 matrices, they had a total score of 72%. It was the number 1 score. Credit score was okay. It ranked 14. People in distress, number 5. Average number of accounts in distress was number 2. So people living in Vegas, that says that they're distressed on more than just their mortgage payment. Bankruptcy filings increased. They were mid-road about 41. Searches for debts was roughly in the 15 area. But so Vegas, think about it. Obviously, big tourism, big city when it comes to, living there. I mean, who doesn't love Vegas? I love Vegas. We've been talking about going back to Vegas. Okay. But what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas when it comes to a national pandemic. Now, the number 2 city was Chicago, Illinois. Overall, 70 score, 34th when it came to credit score. Same thing about the 33, ranked number 33rd for people distressed. Search for loans, though, it ranked number 1. People there are looking for loans, looking for debt. It came in at number 2. Now, the biggest surprise on this list so far was 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And I only say this because of the fact I'm in Texas. In Texas, we've been very blessed, even going back to the previous Great Recession in 2008, 2010. We didn't lose a lot of value. Texas stayed pretty fairly level. And I have a lot of friends in Houston like, oh my God, everything's going great here. And I think Houston, surprisingly, Houston came in 3rd. All right. Not just because, I don't think it's just because of COVID. Houston's been taking it on the chin with the hurricanes and the floodings, and is actually the number 1 county in Texas with the increased number of foreclosure and defaults. And that's been the case before COVID. And COVID didn't help anything. So Houston came in number 3 with a score of 66.7. That followed up, surprisingly, with the Alamo City. San Antonio, Texas came in 4th. Okay. And then surprise, surprise, number 5 was Dallas, Texas. All right. Dallas, Texas, it ranked, in the 39th for credit scores. People distressed 58th out of 100. Average number of accounts distressed, lower number at 69. The bankruptcy filings top 30. The search for people looking for loans and debts, it ranked pretty high. San Antonio, I wanted to put this back. I forgot to mention this. Number 4, ranked number 4 for credit score drops since COVID kicked in. Okay. Number 6, we talked about 5 was Dallas. 6 was Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. That came in at 6. 7 was LA, California. That's a big surprise, LA. And then number 8, surprisingly, was my hometown of Austin, Texas. Okay. Austin, Texas did not do well. It's ranked 8th as the city being hit the hardest with COVID, which I find it kind of surprising. It had a score of 65. Now, the numbers between 3 and 8 were less than 1%. So, Austin, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston all could have been in that mark right at anywhere from 3 to 8. But surprisingly, we had a couple cities there that hit very, very hard. Now you look at Miami. Miami came at number 9. All right. Miami, Florida, score of 60. And then 10 was Fort Worth, Texas, came in at 10 at just under 60 at a score of 59.72. So you had 5 cities out of Texas in the top 10 cities being hit the hardest out of the 100. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind. Our biggest cities in Texas are ones that are part of the problem of people that are seeing issues when it comes to credit score decreases, number of distressed accounts, people in distress, bankruptcy filings, and people searching online for debt assistance, and then also for loans. Okay. So 5 out of the top 10 fall into the Lone Star State. Houston 3, San Antonio 4, Dallas 5, Austin 8, and then Fort Worth 10, which is surprising. Now, as we start dropping out of the top 10, Memphis rolls in at number 11. Okay. I can see that being hit pretty heavily hard because of it ranked number 5. Actually, it was the 5th highest when it comes to credit score drops. That's not really kind of surprised with Memphis being a highly rental market. 85% of the city are renters. Okay. Number 12 was the Big Apple, New York. Okay. They came in at a score of 57.72. San Diego, surprise, San Diego is the 13th largest impacted city out of 100. And that's kind of a surprise. Very surprising on that, because San Diego's always been so great and internet people there. But yes, it's been people that have been hit hard. They didn't do so bad as far as credit score drops. They ranked at 68. Number of people distressed, 54. The accounts in distress was a low at 85, but when you start looking at bankruptcy filings, you saw it ranked number 13. All right. That was the second highest behind Austin. Now, Austin came at number 10 for bankruptcy filings in the last year out of the top 100. Okay. Rolling on from San Diego, you go across the country to Jacksonville, Florida, came in at number 14th. And then Orlando, I thought Orlando would actually rank higher on the list than they did. Orlando is the 15th highest ranked city feeling distress. Now, as far as, it wasn't so big across the board. And when you look at credit scores, stayed about the same. It was ranked 85 out of 100. But what was surprising was the fact that it ranked 15th in both people in distress. That's probably because of all the touristy Disney, Universal Studios, and the average number of accounts in distress that came in ranked as 15th. Okay. From Orlando, you see Cleveland, Ohio came in at 54.5. Laredo, another Texas city south of the border, down south near the border, came in at 17th. It ranked number 3 for the amount of people in distress out of the top 100. Okay, 3, right? It ranked 3rd for that. 6, it ranked 6th for average number of accounts in distress. Okay, when you figure those two, I would have figured that the FICO scores, would have been a bigger hit in top 10, but actually it ranked 12th for the biggest change in FICO scores. All right. Rolling onto that, you had Indianapolis coming at 18, Philadelphia was 19th, and the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., was in at 20th. Atlanta came in at 21, Detroit 22, Mesa, Arizona was 23, and then surprise, surprise, North Las Vegas came at 24, and Des Moines, Iowa came at 25. I've some other numbers on here. It was kind of hard. Tampa was 26, Nashville 27th, St. Louis 28, Denver, Colorado 29, and El Paso 30th. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole list here of 100 on these things because it's just you can go literally to the link, and we'll put the link in the chat roll. I'm sorry, in the comments on the podcast. You can go to the website. We'll also put it in the YouTube video in our description there, so you can click on it and check everything out for you guys as well. But it was an interesting article, and that's the thing you got to realize, ladies and gentlemen out there. It's just not the forbearance numbers that we see. It's just not unemployment numbers. And when you take these numbers that we see, that they're disclosed, and then you roll that in with what we're seeing from the Bauer financial list, as far as the banks with an increased amount of defaults, and that number going from $85 billion in Q2 to over $120 billion in Q3, where the numbers increased by, close to 30 plus billion, my apology. It's affecting people in a variety of fashions. Yes, if they're not getting paid, they're using their credit cards to pay for some things. We can understand that going. But it's also people are having to pick and choose. Are they going to pay their student loans? Are they going to pay their car payment? All right. Are they going to pay other debts? Timeshares? Are they going to pay other loans they have, second car payments? That's the thing to keep in mind too. Now, we all know, I'll give you an example. Chase, JP Morgan Chase, big lender, sent out like everybody else did. Hey, if you've got an auto loan with us or a mortgage, a home with us, let us know. You can apply for a forbearance immediately on our website very easily. And it was 100% approval right there for 90 days, and they're willing to extend it all out there for you as well there. So I think the numbers might be a little skewed, that it may not be figuring in that you may have people out there that could have qualified for forbearance agreements on a variety of debt that just never called on their student loans, never called on their credit cards, never called on their mortgage loan payment, or whatever else might be out there to delay things. And they just assumed, which we all know assuming means an ass out of you and me both. All right. But the thing that you have to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, here is when you start seeing these identifiers. Now, does this mean we're going to see foreclosures in the fourth quarter? I'm just going to tell you right now, we're not going to see a huge amount of foreclosures taking place in 2020. We're going to start seeing those in Q1 of next year. Now, that's foreclosures. That's not note sales. Okay, big difference there. What we are seeing is we're seeing a variety of banks that have sent us lists to look at where they have the foreclosure dates that have been delayed. They were either set to go in Q3 or Q4 that have been pushed out to who knows when. Will it take place in the first quarter of the year? Will it take place in January? is Biden or Trump, whoever ends up winning the election, going to delay things another period of time, another 60 days, 90 days, 30 days. I honestly don't think, even if they let the December 15th executive order expire, I don't think Trump will probably extend it. He might very well before he leaves office in January, or if he's still around in office, who knows? Because we still don't have a clear winner as of when I'm recording this right now. But what I'm trying to get at, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something you have to keep in mind, it's going to be different. It's not going to be like a gong goes off, dong. Suddenly we have this wave of foreclosures. What you have to figure in when it goes from an executive order like that, then it goes back to the statewide level. What happens at the statewide level? And each state is completely different when we know when it comes to foreclosure timeframes. Texas, obviously, fastest of the nation, 21 days prior to the first Tuesday. If you file the notice of default, demand letter, and everything like that, boom, you can foreclose the fastest. Georgia's second. And then you look at what's going on in other states, New York being in the top 10, okay? And one of the longest foreclosure timeframes. It's going to take a while for banks and lending institutions that haven't filed in New York, New Jersey, the two longest states, to foreclose, for them to get that docket rocket and rolling again. Now will they have the rocket docket? What's the rocket docket mean? Well, it means if it's a vacant property, you can expedite the foreclosure. Yeah, New Jersey's had that for years. New York has still always been kind of slow, 2+ years to foreclose. Will we see an increase in Florida? Governor DeSantis step in there and delay foreclosure, delay evictions with everything taking place, especially when you have to look at what's going on with the cruise industry, really still suspending things until the first of the year. Yes, the CDC and then national cruise industry come out and say, hey, you could technically start doing things here in November, but it's going to take them a month at least to figure out their sanitation procedures, their cleaning procedures, what to do, how to get everybody on safely, how to get everybody off, and how just to interact, and that all that goes with the cleaning stuff. What ports can they go into? What ports can they not? Will they just be domestic, to the Bahamas or Barbados and back, or their own little islands in the Caribbean? It's going to take a while to get those people back in the country from other places and going from there. So do I have a clear answer? Heck no, I don't. But what I can tell you, and this article tells you more than anything else you need to take a look at, is look at what's going on besides a person's mortgage. Look at what's going on besides COVID and job loss. There's a lot of other factors that are growing and building kind of that pressure cooking underneath people's feet. If they can't pay their rent, can't pay their mortgage, or aren't paying that because they don't have a job or they can't get caught back up, they've had to live in other means, credit cards being the number one thing. And if they don't, they eventually run out of credit cards, or credit card companies reduce lines of credit, which they've been known to do in the past, which they've already started doing if you've been using it, okay? Now, on the opposite side, if you are in the good side, where you've been paying your mortgage, so you've been responsible with your lines of credit and other things, and you have business accounts, you're starting to see an increase where the banks and credit card companies are giving you lines of credit because you've been responsible with it. Those that need it the most, that are searching for it and stuff like that, you're not seeing it. Those that don't need it, they're giving to it. I know it seems kind of ass backwards, but think of this. It's the way the banks look at you as a borrower. This is the way they evaluate you as an individual. What are you using? How smart do you use it? Are you staying below that 38 or 35%, credit, staying only using 35% of your credit limits? Are you paying on time? Are you paying extra? Are you using it smartly or not using it smartly? You have to keep all these things in mind. And that's why I want to put this out there to everybody. Look, if you're investing in a city that's in the lower of the top 100, okay, you've proved me wrong, okay? But I was very shocked and very surprised to see the top 10, top 20 cities in America being some of those that have supposedly been doing are the hottest real estate markets in the country. Now, Vegas really isn't a surprise at number 1. New York really is a surprise at 12. But when you look at the Lone Star State, you look at some of the other things that pop up in there, those are big surprises. And, I think everybody has gotten so caught up in what's going on in the election and who's going to win and who's not going to win and who's doing what. You have to, we've taken our eye off the ball. Okay. We've taken our eye off of where everything is at, and that's not a good thing. Okay. You've got to know what's going on. You've got to stay abreast of the situation and realize that yes, there are going to be some opportunities in those cities. I don't think so much in Texas in those 5 cities because it's such a fast foreclosure state. I think the banks are going to end up running through them, or they'll move the debt off, or just allow people to forbearance and bump the 6 or 9 months to the back end of the loan, like a lot of the government banks will do. But that still means, more so than anything else, you have to look at the commercial loans too. Commercial loans in each of those top 10 cities. And we're already seeing that here in Austin. And I drive, I take different, when I do leave the house, which is usually go to the grocery store or go to the Lowe's or go to the movie theater or go get breakfast tacos on the weekend, go to the farmer's market. I try to take a different trip and place around Austin here on the north side to see what's going on and see which businesses are closing, how much more for lease signs am I seeing? And I try to point those out. And for the most part, it is a mixture of not only mom and pops that are struggling, but also national chains. They're closing, shutting things down, and you're seeing an increase in this. I see our mall has really struggled. I've seen our mall up on the north side here, town Lakeline Mall, they call it, has been struggling for a few years with major chains. The mall's been a struggle thing, but also seeing hotels that have been under construction for 2 years, where basically the construction has basically come to a stop. We got one right around the corner here, and I keep sending an email to the asset manager of the bank, whose name is on the sign out there, trying to see if they're willing to sell that note, because I guarantee they're going on 2 years now with any payments, and that hotel's been dramatically delayed in a couple of fashions. It's gonna be hard to tell what happens as things don't improve. If they continue to keep venues closed and we have another peak, it's going to get a lot worse. So for those of you that out there, it's just going to be great, we're not going to see a big decline, I'm sorry, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and counter you on that, because of everything else that I'm seeing, everything else on the pulse. Yeah, it might be like somebody's walking along and they could be the perfect image of health, but underneath they're starting to have their arteries clogged. And I'm starting to see that clogging of the financial arteries in the country, and specifically these cities out there. So stay tuned. One of the best things I think that we have done in the last 6 months was definitely doing the top 40 markets on the Note Nation top 40 tour that we did, highlighting different cities. We are seeing an increase in cities that we highlighted. And it was very surprisingly, I'm actually surprised that Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia have had the 2 most amount of hits on those video replays, just working organically. People are starting to look. People are starting to pay attention. And actually, those videos, which average about an hour long, somewhere between 45 and 60 minutes long, they're seeing an above average play amount, not 2 minutes, not 8 minutes, but 16 to 20 to 30 minutes on those videos. So that tells me more people are looking for information in those cities. They're looking to see what the opportunities are. And they're also looking to see where the biggest pain points are, not only residential, but commercial wise. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an interesting 2021. The election will have nothing on what we're going to see taking place next year and beyond. And I just want to respectfully advise you to keep an open mind and pay attention to things. You are seeing stress factors take place. And I love what WalletHub did with this article. Talking about not only the search engines, but the number of bankruptcy filings. You're going to see that number dramatically increase in the next 12 months. Now, one nice thing I can actually do on this list, I didn't even think about this till right now. I can go on here and filter it by that number. So let me click on this, and you can see. So here's when you look at the top cities that filed bankruptcy, Des Moines, Iowa, which ranks 25th nationally on this 100 list, has the #1 bankruptcy filings. Honolulu, Hawaii, #2. Not a big surprise there with 35% unemployment rates. They were actually ranked 56th nationally, which I found kind of surprising. Richmond, Virginia was #3 in bankruptcy filings, #47 overall. Plano, Texas was 4th in bankruptcy filings, 60th overall. Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain High, #5, and they ranked 29th overall. Winston-Salem was #6 in the increased filings year over year, and they ranked 50th. Louisville, Kentucky was #7, and they ranked 36th nationally overall. And was Birmingham, Alabama, ranked 8th and was 39th overall. It was 8th for #4 bankruptcy filings. Omaha, Nebraska was number 9, and they ranked 66th. Austin came in at 10, and they were ranked number 8 as the worst city. And so there's your top 10. So, hey, am I going to see some things here in Austin, Texas? I hope so, but I also hope not. I mean, we're already seeing things. So just please keep in mind, the bigger city you live in, you may not see as much stuff, but you have to start looking at the city yourself versus where you're going. If you're in the same trip every day, driving to work, driving to the office, and you're taking the same road, it may not look differently along those main thoroughfares. What's looking differently is those sub thoroughfares, those, not, I won't say secondary markets, but those secondary roadways, those other areas besides the main drive to and from your city downtown and things like that. So keep that in mind, everybody. Be smart. If this tells me anything, that America needs help more than anything else, borrowers need help with more than anything else. And it's interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to talking to Merrill Chandler next time we have him on, to see if he has any insight to what FICO's scoring, new scoring thing we're doing, if it has anything to do with this article from Wallet Hub. It would be very interesting to see. And now we all know that FICO and the banks are looking at your credit scores. They're pulling your credit, soft pulls, checking things out. Whether you have a major purchase or a major thing, it does affect you across the board. But it'd be interesting to see what happens on that. And I know that I've sent the article to Merrill, and he's very interested to be on the episode to talk more about that. But there are opportunities if you know where to look and how to look at things. And could you literally jump on your county records and do a search for people filing bankruptcy in your city and states? Yes, you can. You go to pacer.gov and do searches for stuff like it. Happens all the time. Attorneys have been doing that for years to market to people. Can you look at search histories? No, not the easiest thing to look for search histories, but you can also maybe even reach out to TransUnion, other FICO or other credit companies to see about buying data on the increased number of delinquencies and other things like that. It might be a potential marketing tool for you to buy a list like that. But guys, gals, my fellow Americans, fellow note investors out there, it's going to be an interesting time. Just take a deep breath, breathe, and realize that, hey, there's a lot of things going on, that not everybody has all the information. And you have to make some decisions for yourselves. One of the big things that I brought this up was to give people an idea of some of the cities that they'd be targeting in. If you're getting listened from asset managers, you know what I would do? I would take that 100 lists, and that's my 100 cities, getting rid of New York or the states that I don't want to buy in because of either, like Kentucky has the $1 million bond, or New York has such a long foreclosure process. New Jersey takes forever, but the other places out there, besides Chicago, forget Crook County, but that would be my hot list. Okay? Anything in these cities, my top 90 cities, that would be a good starting point for you if you're looking for deals and you started targeting banks out there and you're starting to get lists from them. Start looking at the cities. We are getting listened, and when we see lists come in that there's cities that we don't recognize, we don't know, hey, just kick them to the left and keep moving on. If you're getting a list in from a bank or asset manager, or you're seeing in a rural community, let me give you an example. It's an hour outside a major city, okay? You should not be paying the same for that price for that asset as you would if it was in the main city. Why is that? Well, let me give you an example. If I'm buying in Austin, Texas, and an hour, let's just say, what's the city an hour outside of here? Let's just say LaGrange, okay? LaGrange, it's on the way to Houston, or even Elgin. Elgin's about a half hour, 45-minute drive, but LaGrange or Somerville. Here we go. Somerville's a better example. Somerville's a small town, but since it's in Texas, a lot of that's, it's a Texas asking to foreclose quickly. It's far enough removed that if you have a big spike taking place in the city of defaults, foreclosures, it's going to be hard to get crews to go there to do the work. We saw this taking place last year and the year before in Flint. Flint's a pretty good sized city, lots of pretty good deals, but it was hard to get a rehab crew in Flint because they were rather be in Detroit getting paid bigger bucks to do stuff in Detroit. So you have to take that in consideration. Got a buddy in Houston that ran into two even at the storm. He bought a lot of distressed properties with the idea that he could rehab them. He wasn't buying the notes, he was buying the foreclosures, getting them as distressed. And it took twice as long for his rehab numbers because it was difficult to find the crews. So all of his financing was all of his projects were completely underfinanced, and his money costs ate him alive on his 20 projects because he figured 6 months and it took over a year. And just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. You want almost to double your cost. If you're in the note business and you're raising capital, you need to be changing agreements from 12 to 24 months to 24 to 48 months, or 24 to 36 months as a minimum. Because if we do have another delay, another kick out, and we'll know that here shortly, in about 2 weeks after this episode airs, what's going to happen with that. That's going to have major impact on what you're doing and how you're foreclosing, how you're evaluating things. So if you're buying notes in those fast foreclosure states and the borrower isn't interested in a forbearance or long, and you have to foreclose, expect to hold it. But you also got to be a lot more flexible. If you wanted to take the property back and foreclose, you got to be willing to do a forbearance or some sort of trial payment plan for a period of time to get them back on track. But ladies and gentlemen, it is an interesting time to be alive. It's an interesting time to be an American. It's definitely an interesting time to be an investor, whether you're in the rental markets, the wholesale, and the fix and flip, residential, commercial. There are a tremendous amount of opportunities if you know where to look. You just got to get off your ass and roll up your sleeves and get to work. And I encourage you all to do that. And if you're looking to learn more about the note business, hey, highly encourage you to check out our one-day note weekend class. It's a great way to dip your feet in the water, dip your toes in the water in the Cliff Notes version of note investing to see if it might be something you're truly interested in. And with the amount of opportunities taking place, guys and gals, I guarantee we'll be 6 to 12 months ahead of most investors out there looking for other deals. So go out, take some action, be safe. God bless the USA, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.